Before I get started, let me just preface this by saying that this game isn't terrible by any means. I personally just think it's really stupid. Or at least the first episode is. That probably isn't a hugely popular opinion, considering this game has 10 out of 10s across the board on a lot of game storefronts.
Which fucking baffles me.
But yeah, I think Life is Strange Episode 1 is really dumb, really dull, has unnatural enforced dialogue, and has way more two-dimensional characters than good ones. And before you start saying,
well, maybe I just don't like those choice-based kinds of games.
I love Telltale's The Walking Dead. The Batman Telltale game was fun from what I played of it. I can appreciate those kinds of games if they're well done in the departments of story, dialogue, and character. But those are the kinds of things that I feel like are pretty lacking in Life is Strange. At least, like I said in episode 1, because that's all I've personally played of it. And I know it's a bit odd judging the game just based on the first episode, but I just thought it was so weirdly overrated that I had to talk about it. I can understand if the game gets a bit better in the later episodes, but episode 1 just left me with such a bad taste in my mouth that I really am not interested in buying the rest of the game to find out. Episode 1 is still technically a product in its own right, and if Steam can have reviews for it, then why can't I? The only way I can really show you why I think this game is so stupid is to play through it. So I'm going to do just that. So let's go. So we play as Max, your everyday outcast new girl. The game starts in a dream sequence or vision or whatever this is, and Max sees this Sharknado thing coming right for the town. But right when she sees it, she wakes up in her photography class.
Shouldn't have taken that LSD before lecture.
She then proceeds to take a selfie
For some fuck-all reason.
and decides to leave the flash on for the selfie for a completely
Separate fuck-all reason.
This obviously leads the teacher to notice. The teacher asks a question, Max gets it wrong, and then we're introduced to the cardboard cutout bully character number 1, who's mean, snarky, and abusive to Max because that's what bullies do. So after a riveting class discussion, we discover that it turns out Max doesn't have her
Everyday hero.
photography assignment turned in. And don't you worry, the theme of
Everyday hero.
that this assignment introduces into the game that could have been cleverly woven into the story here and there to give it deeper subtext is just constantly
Fisted into your mouth.
and shoved down your throat so you don't forget it. Seriously, Max says things like, wow, I feel like such an everyday hero, at least 3 times throughout this episode alone.
I felt like an everyday hero.
Max goes to the bathroom and takes a picture of a butterfly, which when I first played through the game, I thought somehow butterfly was tied to the powers that she gets in a few seconds, because it was kind of weirdly emphasized, but I have no clue. Either she got him from the butterfly or something related to the butterfly, or she just had a really strong dose of badger milk for breakfast that morning. So cardboard cutout bully character number 2, the male version, comes into the
Woman's bathroom.
talks to himself for a bit.
Like normal people do.
The
Edgelord Queen of all things Edge!
comes in and starts yelling at him about drugs or something. I wasn't really able to pay much attention at this part. I was too focused on Edgelord's beautiful dialogue that
Oozes with rebellion and youthfulness.
Let's talk business. You got hella cash. I know you've been pumping drugs and shit to kids around here. You are going to get in hella more trouble for this. I hope you check the perimeter, as my step-ass would say.
Oh wow, I never would have guessed that she had family issues. What a rebellious youth. Blue hair? Check. Drug affiliation? Check. Parental issues? Check. Angsty overall demeanor? Check. Profanity usage for the sake of sounding cool?
Hella.
Yep.
That's all the boxes checked. We have reached.
Pinnacle edge.
So Mr. Cardboard Cutout pulls a gun on Edgelord, shoots her, and Max is all like, no! And suddenly she can reverse time? Alright, first of all, why is this the only time her reversing time powers work like this? She holds out her hand and starts reversing time, that's normal. But instead of staying where she is while time reverses around her, like it happens in all of the following instances of time travel in the game, she somehow just ends up back in class at her desk? So she either unknowingly made her way back to her desk while she was reversing time, or that was the only instance of her reversing time where she actually was also transported to her original location. Either way is totally stupid though. They didn't have to take the scene back to the class to show how she reversed time. She could have stayed in the bathroom and realized she can reverse time when Mr. Cardboard comes back in, repeating the same lines he said a few seconds ago. That would have made it consistent, but no, we have to rewatch a scene we basically already saw just to reiterate the fact that, oh, she can reverse time now. Second, through the rest of the episode, she physically cannot reverse time for more than maybe 30 seconds or so. But for some unknown reason that are hella convenient to the plot, Max reverses time by about 5 minutes to the past in this scene. Maybe that's just nitpicking and looking too deep into it, but there's just immediately no consistency with the rest of the game, and it annoys me.
And third,
That's an oddly general gesture to make to activate her power. You'd think they'd choose something a little less vague than holding out your hand. It seems like she'd accidentally trigger it all the time just reaching for stuff. Like what if she just took a dump and reached for toilet paper in the same manner? Would the feces be sucked back into her anus? What if she stood up while she was reversing time? Where would the poo go? Would it just float above the toilet in the same position it was in inside of her bowels until she continued the flow of time? Maybe she has to think about reversing time in order to actually activate it, but that's never made to seem like the case. And if it were the case, why did she time travel the first time without thinking about it necessarily? The game's 5 minutes in, and I already hate the time travel logic. So we're back in the lecture from 5 minutes ago. We get asked the same question from earlier, and Max, being the dumb, stupid person that she is, still doesn't know the answer. Then she's like, oh snap, I can just reverse time and get the answer? Right. So she reverses time and gets it right. And by the way, I like how they
Underline.
the choice you're supposed to make, because I guess they don't trust you as a player to recognize the correct choice that wasn't there before, that just showed up now. It's a brand new option. It seems real obvious in itself just showing up. But no, let's underline it just to make it clear. Guys, this is the right answer. This one here.
do you see it? Do you see it? There it is. You better click it. That's the right one.
And you know, I have a lot of other gripes about the choice-making system in this game. For example, why do the choices in this game give you unlimited amount of time to answer them? Not just in the beginning too, but through the entire episode. In most other decision-based games, you have a time limit for each decision. Not a short time limit, unless it's like an action scene decision or something, but short enough to make the choice have some urgency to it and make the decision you make a gut reaction. And it makes you feel more engaged and involved in the story, because decisions keep coming at you and you have to make quick little gut decisions on each one. When you have endless time to make a decision, it kind of ruins the urgency and realism a bit. Suddenly the game just stops and waits for you. There's no pressure, which I guess to some could be seen as a good thing, but for me I just feel like decision making is a lot less interesting and engaging than it is in a lot of other similar games. And another thing, while I think the idea of reversing time to change decisions is neat, it kind of takes the weight completely out of decision making. The choices you make don't feel important because if you don't like how the characters react, you can just reverse time and do the opposite. And on top of that, every time you make a somewhat important decision, no matter which side you go with, Max will always chime in with the,
Oh, maybe I should have gone with the other choice.
Should I rewind and change my story?
So not only do I feel like my decisions are weightless, I am also constantly told that I might have made the wrong decision, which makes me feel like I have to reverse time and see how the other way turns out, only for Max to again tell me that she thinks the other way would have been better, as though we hadn't already seen that outcome before. The decision making just sucks, and it's not at all 10 out of 10 material. Anyways, so Max gets the right answer this time, then class ends and she goes to talk to the teacher.
Never let one of photography's future stars avoid handing in her picture.
I'm not avoiding, just...
Biding time, waiting for the elusive right moment.
Exactly.
Max, don't wait too long. John Lennon once said that life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. I'd never let one of photography's future stars avoid handing in her picture.
I'm on top of it. I think John Lennon once said that life is what happens while you're busy making other plans.
That doesn't make any sense. Why would you just say that? The context isn't the same as when he said the quote, so it sounds super clunky.
And by the way, thanks for underlining the correct choice again for me, game. I couldn't have figured it out otherwise. So Max then leaves and goes to the bathroom again, retraces her step. Mr. Cardboard McBullyscroat comes out, along with
Edgelord Supreme.
And just before Edgelord gets shot again, Max pulls the fire alarm and saves Edgelord's life. Then we're introduced to the cliche character number 87, overbearing authority figure / the stepdad of Edgelord. And he immediately starts accusing Max of being up to no good and making trouble in the neighborhood, even though the alarm went off no more than 15 seconds ago and she just came out of the bathroom pretty normally.
Do you hear that fire alarm? That means you should be outside.
I had to
Do you hear that fire alarm?
I had to use the
Do you hear that fire
bathroom.
alarm?
I had to use the bathroom.
Girls always use that fire alarm.
I guess the game makers didn't know how to subtly introduce this guy as an authoritarian power tripping guy, so they just kind of shoved this scene into it to be like, oh, look at how bossy and mean this guy is. Look at him. Wow. 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 So Principal Man tells Security Dad to screw off and do his actual job,
Finally, some realism.
and talks to Max. Alright guys, this conversation leads into one of the big choices of this chapter. Are they gonna give you a time limit to give the decision more urgency? Is the choice gonna be unreversible, so you have to stick with your choice? Nope. But they do add this nice little filter to just make sure that you know this is an important decision. There's no question about it. This is important.
This filter tells you so.
This filter makes it so much more exciting, engaging,
And urgent.
Seriously, not only does this choice still feel weightless, they leave no question whatsoever as to whether or not this decision is an important one. I know I'm comparing this game to a lot of other games a lot, but it's just very appropriate comparisons in my book. In games like The Walking Dead, they don't straight up tell you which decisions are the crucial ones. Some of the crucial ones are, of course, very obvious, but some not so much. And that makes every decision have a little bit more weight to it, because you can't always be sure which decisions are going to be the ones that have huge consequences down the road. Why can't I just be playing Walking Dead right now? And yes, in this decision too, no matter what you choose, Max always has to chime in.
Oh, maybe that decision was the wrong one. Maybe I should see what the other one is like.
So you can't help but feel a bit like you made the wrong choice. So then you gotta reverse time, play through the scene, get to the choice, pick the opposite choice, see how that plays out, and then you'll most likely feel like, my original decision was better, and you'll have to reverse time again, play through the scene, get to the choice, pick the original choice that you chose, and go on about your life. It just
sucks.
And just like that, we've reached the end of chapter 1. Jesus.